This episode is brought to you by Progressive Insurance. Fiscally responsible, financial geniuses, monetary magicians. These are things people say about drivers who switch their car insurance to Progressive and save hundreds. Visit Progressive.com to see if you could save. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Potential savings will vary, not available in all states or situations.
It's Another Side of Midnight.
Political humorist TJ McCormick.
Now, to the Bernard McGurk studios of 77 WABC.
Here's TJ McCormack.
It's Another Side of Midnight.
Political humorist TJ McCormick.
Now, to the Bernard McGurk studios.
Here's TJ McCormack.
So, arguably the classic early morning, late night, Art Bell type of conversation, the topic, the go-to, got to be UFOs, right? Has to be UFOs. It has to be aliens and extraterrestrials, and right? Got to be. Everybody loves the UFO conversation. So, if you're paying attention and you're up this time of the morning, you probably do pay a little bit of attention to this sort of stuff. And you'll know that in the last year or so, it's gotten very, very matter of fact, the conversation in the media, in the press, in Washington, D.C., in the halls of power in Europe, the European Union, many Western European nations, usually France and the Netherlands, UK, talking about aliens, UFOs, entities out there, UEPs, okay, all that stuff. And the kind of things that when you listen to the brilliant and way cool Dr. Sky, who precedes this show every Saturday and Sunday morning, you'll hear that this conversation has become mainstream. Now, it's so mainstream that they've been talking about, we're learning that they've been talking. Okay, the current conversation has informed us that they've been talking for a good couple of decades to the Vatican about UFOs. So I got me a huge name in this realm. This guy's name is Danny Sheehan. This guy is one of the go-to experts on the planet on several fronts. And we got him here on Another Side of Midnight with TJ McCormick to talk about the Vatican and their knowledge of aliens and UFOs and the critical mass that's about to break all over the world as governments around the planet begin to finally just acknowledge what they've known all along, and we're all about to learn about our past, a bunch about our present, and arguably a ton about our future. In this conversation with Danny Sheehan. Great stuff on Another Side of Midnight with TJ McCormick on the Red Apple Audio Networks. This morning we are joined by Danny Sheehan. He's a prominent lawyer, especially known for his work on public interest cases, and he has made some splashes based on his involvement in the UFO disclosure movement, specifically about the Vatican's potential knowledge regarding this sort of phenomena. Danny is with the heads up the Romero Institute, and he joins us now. Good morning, Danny Sheehan. I am grateful you are here, sir.
Good morning, TJ. Good morning, New York.
Yes, and the whole wide world, and we're all together now. Again, Danny. You are in a very, very small group of not just experts, but people who are aware of this sort of. Would it be accurate to say that this looking at and investigating and understanding the Vatican's role in the UFO UAP phenomena realm is a niche aspect of the larger sort of scene? Does that make sense?
Yeah. Well, yeah, but. I was for 20 years. I was the general counsel for the Disclosure Project, the General Disclosure Project with Dr. Stephen Greer.
Right.
I represent Luis Elizondo, who was the director of the top secret program inside the Pentagon, investigating UFOs. I was part of the investigation by President Jimmy Carter back in 1977. So it's been a lot broader than just the Vatican. A lot of people are concerned about it because I was at Jesuit headquarters. I was general counsel of the United States Jesuit headquarters in Washington, D.C., in their social ministry office when I was first contacted professionally to conduct this investigation. And so that a lot of people are remember that, and they remember it from that focus with regard to the attempt to get the Vatican to open up their files, their archives on the UFO issue.
So and so it was that broader perspective, and your presence on that larger within that larger scope on all of this, that and your subsequent connection with the Jesuits and everything that sort of brought you in on this. And so given we'll start there back in that era, given your involvement with Carter's request, what was the official or the unofficial response you received at the outset? And what did that experience tell you when you started to knock on that door about the Vatican's willingness to engage on this topic way back then?
Well, it was interesting because the reason that President Carter had originally asked the Congressional Research Service to undertake an independent investigation of the UFO phenomenon and the potential extraterrestrial intelligence that might be responsible for at least some of the UFO sightings, because he had been refused information from the Central Intelligence Agency. That's what started the whole thing. When he was elected in November 4th of 1976, and by the 19th of November of 1976, he had insisted that the CIA director come down from Washington to Plains, Georgia, to brief him on the UFO issue.
And I'm sorry, I'm just going to jump in real quick, and I'm so sorry, but just so was that just something? Because I remember, I am just old enough to remember the pop culture references to UFOs back in the 70s and the early 80s. With certain Hollywood and different and Project Blue Book and all that stuff.
Sure. Was
it Carter's own organic curiosity, or had he had some other special interest groups? Was this a platform like Trump? Was this a platform of his campaign? Because I don't remember.
No. He had seen a UFO. This is a personal thing.
So this was a personal thing. He said, now I'm going to be president. Let's get the CIA down here because I want to know what's going on.
That's right, because he had seen a UFO when he was governor of Georgia. Not like a distant, thing in the sky. It was like treetop level, like a football field length away from him. He was doing a Lions Club a presentation in Georgia as the governor, and there were 11 of them out on the front porch I guess the other guys were taking a smoke break or something, but he was out there with them, and this UFO came right over. And there wasn't any doubt about what it was. It was a full UFO with a dome on the top and the saucer shape. You know,
classic.
It wasn't some weird tic tac or so. It was like it was a UFO. And so he pledged during his campaign. Actually, he went out on a limb and pledged that he would, in fact, demand to be briefed in on the UFO issue as soon as he got elected. And so once he was elected, it was one of the first things he did, was sent for the CIA director to come to Plains, Georgia, to brief him on it, because he knew that they were real, because he'd seen it, you know. And so, but it turns out that the CIA director at that time was George H.W. Bush,
right?
Who had been appointed by Gerald Ford after Richard Nixon was forced to resign, and Ford came on. And the church committee hearings began in the United States Congress, because it had come as a result of the Watergate break-in, and so that Nixon was forced to resign. But when the Congress realized that 4 of the people that were involved in the Watergate break-in were CIA people, and so that they began a major investigation of the CIA, which led to the church committee. And that because that church committee was bearing down on the CIA, what happened is Gerald Ford appointed George H.W. Bush to become the new director of the CIA. So he was on board when President Carter was elected. And so when he sent for the director of the CIA to brief him on the UFO issue, it was George H.W. Bush. And he flat out refused to brief him, saying that as the president, Carter had no need to know what that information was. And so President Carter, contacted the Democratic head of the House of Representatives Science and Technology Committee and asked him to task the Congressional Research Service, which is this major group that is on call for the Congress to do investigations and dig up particular information. And so he said he wanted to know what documentation our United States government had in hand about the UFO issue and any potential extraterrestrial civilization. And that's what started it. And so that when they assigned that to the Congressional Research Service, the Science and Technology Division of the Congressional Research Service was headed up by Dr. Marcia Smith. Mm-hmm. And she called me and asked if I would meet with her. And she asked me, as general counsel at the U.S. Jesuit headquarters in charge of their public policy office, whether I would reach out to the Vatican. Mm-hmm. And see if we could get, as Jesuit headquarters, could get access to whatever information the archives had in Rome and share it with the president.
And now, forgive me.
That's what I did.
So forgive me, Danny. And we're talking to Danny Sheehan, who's co-founder of the Romero Institute, a foremost, if not the only expert out there in what the Vatican has known, and when did they start to know it, about UFOs, UAPs, alien life in the universe, here on Another Side of Midnight on 77 WABC. Danny, and this is, forgive me if I missed this dot to connect, but at what point was this? At what point did the Vatican come up? Like, when this was when the congressional investigative body got a hold of things, was it something that they had turned over a stone and said, whoa, it looks like the Vatican had came up with, had some information? How did they connect the dots? And I'm guessing that's what happened.
Well, I know exactly how it happened.
Of course you do. You're Danny Sheehan.
I was contacted by Rosemary Chalk, who was the she was the executive secretary for the National Science Academy, mm-hmm. And that she knew of me. She knew that I had represented the New York Times in the Pentagon Papers case. She knew that I was one of the lawyers that was in the office that represented James McCord, that got him to blow the whistle on Richard Nixon during the Watergate burglary. She knew that I had represented Dr. John Mack. No, I hadn't done it yet. She knew all about me. Mm-hmm. And so she came to Mass. I was at Mass one Sunday morning, and she came to me and found me and asked to talk with me and told me that her one of her best friends, Marcia Smith, who was the head of the Science and Technology Division, had been, at the Congressional Research Service, had just been assigned by the president to find out what all the documentation was. And she said, she asked me what I thought about the UFO issue. And I told her that I thought it was one of the most important public policy issues that we could possibly be dealing with. And so she said, "Oh, wow, that's amazing. Let me have Marcia Smith contact you."
Right.
And that's what happened. So Marcia contacted me, and we began talking about this, and the lights came on for her, and she said, holy mackerel, maybe the Vatican is, it was the major repository of history, for over 1,000 years, and after the library at Alexandria had gotten burnt, it was one of the main repositories of recorded history. And so she wanted to see whether, in light of the fact that I was general counsel at the U.S. Jesuit headquarters in charge of their public policy stuff, that I might have the juice to be able to get the Vatican to cough it up, or at least let me see it,
or at least a couple of phone numbers, a couple of contacts,
And so that's how that. And it was very interesting because I contacted my superior. I was a candidate for the Jesuit priesthood at the time, and after having graduated from Harvard College and studied American foreign policy under Henry Kissinger, and had graduated from Harvard Law School, was the founder of the Harvard Civil Rights Law Review, and studied under Larry Tribe, and all the top people in the world, actually. And so I ended up at Jesuit headquarters, the leading major religious order of the entire Catholic Church, and so she thought that I might have the proper juice to be able to get at the information in the Vatican archives, and so she asked if I would do it. Very importantly, my superior authorized it. We checked with the assistant provincials in all 10 provinces of the United States. They cleared me doing it, and then all 10 provincials, the actual heads of the Jesuit order in the United States, agreed to have me do this. So they realized that this was an extraordinarily important issue. And so when I contacted the Vatican, asked them to get at this, I explained to them in the letter what we wanted to do, and they said no, that I wouldn't be allowed to see it. So I was kind of taken aback, so I wrote them a second letter and said, maybe I wasn't exactly clear about what this all was about, but let me explain to you that we're doing this on behalf of President Carter in the Jesuit headquarters, and we would like to get access to this information. And they said no.
Wow.
So I called and met with Dr. Marcia Smith, explained that to her.
And I'm sorry, who was the Pope at the time? Was this Pope?
In 1977.
So Pope,
that would have been John Paul II.
JP2. Okay, all right. So this is JP2. All right. So he was already
JP1 wasn't there that long.
Right. Yeah. No, he was. He had a cup of coffee. Right.
Yeah, he was there for just a few months.
Right. Right.
So it was John Paul.
So this was early into John Paul II's tenure.
Yeah. Very early. Very early. And so that I put in the communication. They said no. And so that I said to Marcia Smith, I said, she asked if, actually the top 50 scientists at the Jet Propulsion Laboratory, where they run SETI, Search for Extraterrestrial Intelligence, they contacted her and asked if I would come. They knew that I was special counsel of this investigation, so they asked if I would come to SETI out in Pasadena, California, and give them a 3-hour closed-door seminar on the theological implications of contact with an extraterrestrial civilization. And so that I was authorized to do that by Jesuit headquarters. And so I said to Marcia Smith, I said, look, since I'm going to be doing this seminar for the people in SETI, that I'd like to get access to some information that we have inside the United States government. And she said, well, what would you like to see? And I said, I'd like to see the classified portion of Project Blue Book. That I knew that from 1952 to 1967, there had been, this investigation by the United States Air Force And I knew that there were over 700 sightings that they had squirreled away and they kept secret and pretended they didn't have them. And these were sightings that they just could not conceivably explain away. But there were too many credible witnesses. They had photographs. They had, some of them had videos, film footage of them, and so they knew that they couldn't get away with it. And so they had this secret section of Project Blue Book. And so I said, what I would like to do is see the classified portion of Project Blue Book. Well, Dr. Smith said, well, they're never going to let us have that. And I said, well, you'll never know until we ask. And so she put in a formal request that I be given access to the classified portion of Project Blue Book. And much to her surprise, and frankly mine, they said yes, that I could see it. And so they brought the files to Washington, D.C., under guard, and they brought them to the Madison building, which was the brand new building that had just been built as an extension to the Library of Congress. There was nobody in it. It was completely vacant, the building. They asked me to come over there on a Saturday morning and bring 2 photo IDs, which I did. It went over to the building, and I got access to the classified portions of Project Blue Book and saw photographs in the files of a UFO recovery operation that was going on the part of our United States Air Force, a crashed UFO, and they were taking photographs of it and video or movie camera pictures of it.
Yeah.
And so that's how I knew that it was true. And so I came back to Jesuit headquarters and met with Father Bill Davis, who was my Jesuit superior. I briefed them on what was going on, and we made a motion to the National Council of Churches from the Jesuit headquarters over to the Washington Interreligious Staff Council, asking to have a special task force assembled in 1977 of the major religious denominations to get out ahead of this, so that we could start trying to figure out the theological implications.
All religious denominations. This was
all 54.
Right.
All 54 of the major religious denominations in the country.
Mm-hmm.
And they said no.
What was your pitch? Actually, let me ask you this. And everybody, we're talking to Danny Sheehan. This fascinating conversation is more fascinating than I was anticipating. I'm literally, I'm dying to chew popcorn, but I'm afraid I'd choke on it with this. This is absolutely amazing. We're talking to Danny Sheehan of the Romero Institute. He is telling us his involvement for decades now in the pursuit of what it is that of the knowledge of that the Vatican has had for all these centuries, possibly, about alien life forms throughout the universe, UFOs and UAPs. Here on Another Side of Midnight with TJ McCormick on 77 WABC. What was your pitch to all of these? How do you broach this subject to all of these denominations and all of these religions? I mean, especially because it's sort of a narrow focus. You're just going into the Vatican. I mean, I would imagine that a number of these dozens of denominations have their own opinions, not all of them glowing, of the papacy, the Vatican, Catholicism. I mean, what was your pitch?
Well, the Jesuit headquarters had helped establish the Washington Interreligious Staff Council. Okay. When I arrived in 1975, they didn't have any such thing. There were 54 different religious denominations in the country that had Washington, D.C. offices that would monitor legislation that was going on, et cetera. And so I went to see Bob Drinan, Father Drinan, who was a Jesuit priest from Brookland, just outside of Boston. He was the chair of the House Judiciary Committee. And so I went and met with him and said, what's the story here? Why is it we don't have a coalition of all of the Jewish and Christian and Muslim? Why don't we have a task force that meets the heads of the offices meet at least regularly in Washington to discuss different legislation and different public policies? And he said, well, mainly people are afraid of the Catholic Church because it was the official religion of Rome,
right?
And coerced the crap out of people for hundreds of years, and so that they were leery about this. And so I said, well, let's hope we can help them get over that,
right?
Because the Jesuit order now under the generalship, the superior general of the Jesuits since 1962 had been Pedro Arrupe. Pedro Arrupe was a Spanish Basque, a surgeon, medical doctor, who had become a Jesuit priest back in the late 1930s.
Right.
And he had begun speaking out against Franco and against Mussolini and against Hitler. He became an ardent opponent of the rise of fascism. And basically ended up being made the head of the Jesuit order. Wow. And as the head of the Jesuit order, he had adopted a very aggressive, progressive set of policies for the Jesuit order. And since we're the largest single order in the entire Catholic Church, and the Catholic Church is the largest single religious denomination in all of Western civilization, it was a pretty important position, and so that we had a certain amount of authority in Washington. And so when we recommended that we establish this Washington Interreligious Staff Council with 54 different members who were the heads of the Washington offices, they agreed to do it. And so we used to meet together once every month, and we had established half a dozen task forces. One task force on nuclear disarmament, one task force on economic justice, one task force on public policy and criminal justice.
Sure.
And I headed up the national task force on human rights and civil rights because I was the founder of the Harvard Civil Rights Law Review at the law school, and so that I ended up being in that one. And so we were fairly prominent in that entire organization. So when we came to them and I told them what had happened, that I'd been contacted and given access to the classified portions of Project Blue Book. I had seen the craft. I knew positively that they were real and that we had better get our big boy pants on here as a religious denomination and start coming to grips with this and get out ahead of it. Well, they were not prepared to do that at the time. But I when I met with Father Bill Davis at the Jesuit headquarters, he showed me a photograph that he had of a UFO. Actually,
his own personal.
That's right. Yeah, his sister had given it to him, and because she'd gotten it from her husband, Mike, who was the chief air traffic controller at the Seattle airport in Washington State. And his best friend had taken a photograph out the window of his airplane and of the UFO right in flight and didn't want to get in trouble. And so he brought it to his best friend, who was the head of the air traffic controllers, and said, here, I'm not going to report this because I don't want to lose my pilot license.
And you know what? And you know what, by the way, just to back up a little bit, you mentioned George Bush at the time was the head of the CIA who had denied the president. It's interesting that the president took no for an answer, that Carter took no for an answer when he asked George H.W. Bush for some information. But George H.W. Bush, he was a pilot in World War II. You got to imagine that aside from, but way before he ever got involved with the CIA, he probably knew loads and loads about UAPs and UFOs based on his time in the air as a pilot.
Well, he didn't spend that much time in the air.
No?
No. He was
or at least in that realm, at least in that universe. So you know what? Listen, it's the bottom of the hour. I got to take a quick break here at the bottom of the hour. We're talking to Danny Sheehan. We're talking about the Vatican's on. Now we're going to get in. When we come back after this quick break, we're going to now get into it. I want to get to where the rubber hits the road and what it was. First of all, when we come back, I'd love for you to tell me, when you finally did get access to the Vatican's archives, I want to hear about the first moment, even with the guy with all of your background, all of your knowledge, all of your credibility, your gravitas, your all the places and people that you had been with and served, and studied. There had to be a moment when you gulped deeply and took a deep breath before you went into this truly vast, mysterious archive. And then I want you to tell us, what did you start to learn and when did you start to learn it?
It's Another Side of Midnight. All night long. This is Another Side of Midnight
with TJ McCormack.
77 WABC. It's Another Side of Midnight.
Political humorist TJ McCormack.
Now, to the Bernard McGurk studios of 77 WABC.
Here's TJ McCormack.
It's Another Side of Midnight.
Political humorist TJ McCormack.
Now, to the Bernard McGurk studios.
Here's TJ McCormack.
Good morning, gang. Love it. I'm TJ McCormack, and I am so grateful to be joined by Danny Sheehan, who is telling us this incredible story about his search for answers from the Vatican, his access decades ago to the Vatican's extensive historical archives about their knowledge of UFOs, UAPs, alien life throughout the universe, all on behalf of a special investigative committee from the United States Congress. So, Danny, we're back. And I guess, as you're telling me this story, I just keep imagining that first moment when you were, and again, you were well respected. You had been around the world and back, even as a young guy. I mean, you were this young lawyer, just with a great background already and an incredible Rolodex. And reputation, but it's a whole different level when you're about to, go into the archives of the Vatican.
Well, what happened is I ended up meeting directly with Johann Ickx, who was the head of the Vatican archives directly. He ended up sort of starting this negotiation with me, saying, look, what he wanted me to do to begin with, since he knew that I was one of the attorneys for the New York Times in the Pentagon Papers case, that he wanted me to write a letter to the editor of the New York Times to have it published, calling upon the Vatican to open the portion of the archives having to do with Pope Pius XII. Pope Pius XII is the one who signed the Concordat with Mussolini and with the fascists, and agreed not to oppose them. And he had taken loads of shit, as you might have guessed, over that. And the bottom line is that they wanted me to do this gesture of calling upon the Vatican to open the archives of Pius XII, so that people could see that he, in fact, had gone to some lengths to try to save hundreds and thousands of Jewish people, to try to offset the accusations against him. I agreed to do that. I wrote the letter for them, submitted it to them. He still wouldn't agree to let me have access to the archives. I talked with Jose Gabriel Funes, who was the Jesuit priest, who was the director of the Vatican Observatory, right, and he ended up issuing a public statement, an official statement, asserting the following: that he said that in light of the discovery of more and more of these new exoplanets, that it has now become clear that much sooner than had been previously anticipated, our human family is going to discover life elsewhere in our universe. And therefore, the time has arrived for us all to begin the profoundly important discussion to discuss the profound philosophical and theological questions that are posed to our human family by the discovery of life elsewhere in the universe. Now, he issued that official public statement from the Vatican press office. And when I talked with him face to face about it, he said, look, Danny, he said, we're not talking here about the discovery merely of some single cell life form beneath some frozen sea on some distant moon, orbiting some distant star in a far-off galaxy. He said,
right.
We're talking about another highly intelligent and highly technologically developed, but distinctly non-human species right here in our Milky Way galaxy. That's what he said. Okay.
Yeah.
And so the bottom line is, I'd already seen the photographs, so I knew that they were real. And I ended up being reached out to by Dr. John Mack at Harvard because, I'd graduated from the college. I graduated from the law school. I'd gone to do my master's and PhD work in comparative social ethics at the Harvard Divinity School. So I was pretty well versed at Harvard University. And so John Mack contacted me because it turns out he was the person to whom the United States Defense Department was ordering high-level military officials who insisted upon getting briefed on the UFO issue.
Right.
Because they had seen a UFO and they had encountered UFOs and that they were trying to get them investigated. And the first thing that happened is the Defense Department ordered them to go get a psychiatric exam.
Wow.
That was, and we've now recovered through the Freedom of Information Act the official internal documents that show that this was an actual official policy of the United States Defense Department and the Central Intelligence Agency to try to suppress any effort on the part of any military people, demanding information about UFOs or trying to report a contact with UFOs. And so Dr. John Mack, the head of the Department of Clinical Psychiatry at Harvard Medical School, is the person to whom many of them were sent to get this psychiatric exam.
Right.
And Dr. Mack, after having interviewed several of these top-level people, he was astonished at the information that they had.
Right.
And he said, look, I ran all the tests on these people, and they were totally within the normal parameters of psychiatric health. And yet they were all insisting upon telling the story about these UFOs. And so he began to inquire about this and started interviewing citizens, regular citizens, very prominent citizens who believed that they had direct face-to-face contact with UFO occupants. And he wrote a book about it. He actually wrote a paper which he submitted to the New England Journal of Medicine about this extraordinary phenomenon. And the dean of the university, the dean of the medical school, hauled him up in front of a faculty committee and threatened to basically take away his tenure if he didn't shut up.
So
stop talking about this.
So Danny, so while all this is going on, while all this is happening at Harvard and within the military and with your groups and with the Vatican, so the Vatican makes this big pronunciation from the Vatican press office.
Yep.
What exactly were they talking about? What did you see? What did you learn? What does the Vatican have? What do they have in layman's terms? Where in there is it everything from photographs to, is there parchment? How far back does this knowledge and understanding go? When was the first time that the Vatican found itself receiving information about this sort of thing?
What they've been willing to allow to me to see so far is the fact that there has been discussion. Giordano Bruno, back in the 15th century, was writing publicly about the fact that he was convinced that there was extraterrestrial beings on other planets. And it turns out there's a whole lot of writings that are in the Vatican archives that had to do with what they call with the many worlds theory.
Many worlds.
That's what they refer to, that there are many worlds in our galaxy where there are intelligent beings. And Giordano Bruno wrote about it. It turns out that Copernicus believed that this was true as well. And that during the trials that the Vatican undertook against these people to try to suppress them talking about this, they have records of what the writings were of these people who had recorded instances in which people had believed that they have seen a craft, or that they had developed theories based in their observation of the planets and the way they moved, etc., that there had to be these other worlds, and so that the only thing that they'd been willing to release prior to the statement, where they issued that statement, was that there were writings in the Vatican archives about the many worlds theory.
Are we actually capable of that? Are we capable of that discussion? I mean, because the discussion, if it goes to full fruition, if it goes all the way, the conversation is, if we're to believe that, if we as the faithful, or people who are friends of the faithful who believe, if we're to believe that God created life, capital L, life, singular, no explanation, no further descriptors, just that God created life, then we're going to need some guidance as to whether or not we're supposed to say, was that life on Earth? Was that this realm? Or like if I was to be, if it was to be put to me, I'd have to start saying, well, wait a minute. I think I'd like to believe that means that God created that life, those lives, those alien lives, and all of that other in the other worlds. Would that be the biggest philosophical / theological question, is to what is God's role in all this? When we say God created life, did He create those lives?
No. The biggest theological question is, what is God?
Oh boy! Oh boy!
and that's what they're afraid of going near.
And let me ask you this:
the reality is,
Go ahead.
Jesuits know
that
God is not a white male anthropomorphic human being sitting on a throne somewhere with a scepter,
right?
Judging people,
right?
Okay, and we know that Jesus Christ is not the biological son of God the Father.
Right.
We know that God is not a male.
Right.
We know that, in fact, God is not a noun.
Right.
Not only not a person like that, but not a noun.
Mm-hmm.
So that the probing of this issue of what is God, what is it that is really being talked about by the mystical beings who are the source of spiritual vision on the part of our human family, what are they talking about here?
Right.
Okay.
Given what the profound stuff that you just laid on us about what these questions are, to be able to grasp, not because we're dumb and it's science and it's theology and it's the meeting of some of these massive fronts of intelligence and consciousness and faith. But just our ability to handle a subject like this, we might as well be not able to read or write. I mean, I honestly, listen, I've got to take one more break here, and then we're going to come back, and I'm going to ask you to just stick around a little bit, and then I'll let you go.
All night long, this is Another Side of Midnight
with TJ McCormack.
All night long, this is Another Side of Midnight
with TJ McCormack.
77 WABC. It's Another Side of Midnight.
Political humorist TJ McCormick.
Now, to the Bernard McGurk studios of 77 WABC.
Here's TJ McCormack.
This is Another Side of Midnight
With TJ McCormack.
Now, to the Bernard McGurk studios.
Here's TJ McCormack.
Through with my own love, I loved her through and through. I'm searching for a new love. Can that new love be you? I wanna Sunday kind of love.
All right. Good morning. Boy, is there any better Sunday morning song than this? And is there any more profound subject for a Sunday morning than something that could really, Danny Sheehan? I mean, okay, let me just pick up on the little mini theme that was developing there for a quick moment. What could this do to just, okay, let's say those conversations start happening with real, regular people. All right. Let's say the Vatican. Let's say Pope Leo. Look, Pope Leo, the 14th, his namesake, the 13th, he founded the Vatican Observatory, right?
Yeah, not only that, but he founded the Lyonese conferences where they were discussing the issue of consciousness in its relationship to the material world.
So are we getting there now? So do you think, so look at that. God, what don't you know? So here it is, Danny. What happens if they start having these conversations? I mean, look, I've been in PR. I've been a political communications guy. I try to talk to the masses on Saturday and Sunday mornings here. When you do that, when you broach a big subject and you roll out a narrative as something as simple as, Zoran Mamdani is not a communist. Okay, whatever. Danny, how does the Vatican, A, roll this out? And B, what are the implications? What could happen? Could they just start losing faithful the left and right? Is that what they're concerned about?
No, that's already going on.
Well, yes, good point.
What the question is,
that's a hell of a point.
What the question is what possibility does this have of actually getting people to become interested in genuine spiritual issues? Now, let's just stop and think. Well, sure. we've got the James Webb Telescope up right now.
Right.
Okay. And, we had the Hubble up, and we had the Max Planck up. We've got, and what we're probing for right now is the actual exterior boundaries of our material universe.
Of our universe, okay? Right.
They realize it's 13.78 a billion years old.
Right.
And it's been expanding, not out and away from the locus of the initial Big Bang, but every single ultimately irreducible integer of matter in the entire universe that was compressed into one tiny pinhead size of our whole universe, every single one of those ultimately irreducible integers of matter repelled every other one at the instant of the Big Bang. And they've been expanding out and away from each other since that point in time. Okay, and this has been going on now for 13.7 billion
years, right?
But we know that we're probing on right now is the exterior point of the expansion. Okay, so we're in the process of trying to map the exterior shape of the entire universe, which appears to be this egg-shaped, not sphere, but an egg-shaped universe. And so the question that arises is, what's on the other side? When you get to the very end of the material universe and you map its boundaries, what is outside of that? What's out there? And what it appears to be, so we can get right down to it, what appears to be the reality is that there is an infinite and totally eternal sea of completely undifferentiated consciousness. Okay, and that this absolute infinite and eternal abiding sea of undifferentiated consciousness actually enfolded into being the original discontinuity in the field of completely inchoate consciousness.
And is that God?
That's the moment.
Is that
the moment.
and is that God?
But it's not a noun. It's a verb. It's a verb of being.
Right.
It's
Yes.
A non-transitive verb of being.
Right.
Okay. And so that the minute that you start naming it and start giving it a noun, you have committed the ultimate heresy. And that's why in the ancient traditions, you could not name the name of God. If you attempted to name God, you were already off by one. You've got to understand this is not a noun. And so therefore, what's happened is that this infinite and eternal sea of undifferentiated consciousness generated the initial discontinuity in the field. And the discontinuity had poles, had kind of exterior boundaries, but they're bonded together. The two antipodes of the original discontinuity were bonded together by the original gravitational attraction of an energy.
Danny,
this is the origins of the universe.
When the Vatican gives the final okay to finally start, this is going to be Father O'Flaherty is going to have a hell of a homily to tackle.
That's right.
When we come back,
but they're going to get the people involved,
that's the upshot. Stay right there. Please stay right there, because I have one final question that I'm going to ask you when we come back, and then we're going to have to do this again like in about a month or so, because we're leaving a lot on the table, I know. Everybody, stay right there. We'll be back for a final question with Danny Sheehan after the top of the hour break. This is Another Side of Midnight with TJ McCormick on 77 WABC.
It's Another Side of Midnight, 77 WABC. This is Another Side of Midnight
with TJ McCormack.
Now, to the Bernard McGurk studios of 77 WABC.
Here's TJ McCormack.
Another Side of Midnight.
Political humorist TJ McCormick.
Now, to the Bernard McGurk Studios.
Here's TJ McCormack.
All right, gang, we roll along. It's so cool that we actually have achieved best of status. Best of status. I am away from the show this morning, and so we have, I can't believe it, been here long enough, done a lot of great stuff, that now we have things that qualify as best of Another Side of Midnight with TJ McCormick. So cool. And this is definitely, absolutely one of the best of the stuff we have ever done. This conversation that I had back in the summer with a fella named Vinnie Tolman. Vinnie Tolman died. Vinnie Tolman straight up absolutely died. He died, and we know that, and we say that because part of this man's story includes being zipped up and later unzipped out of a body bag. Vinnie Tolman died in Nevada. Died in Nevada in the restroom of a fast food joint. Okay? Died in a bathroom near Vegas. Not the first time that's happened. Anyway, Vinnie Tolman provides this amazing account of his, not only what precipitated his death, how he got there, what happened as he died, what happened while he was dead, what he viewed, and he was dead for quite some time, what he viewed, what he did, to whom he spoke with, and to whom he spoke. So here is a great conversation with Vinnie Tolman about his death experience here on Another Side of Midnight with me, TJ McCormick, on the Red Apple Audio Networks. Enjoy. And so no better time than the present to bring Vinnie Tolman on Another Side of Midnight. Once again, Vin Tolman, he's from Texas. And very simply put, he died 20 years ago on January 18th. And since coming back, he's made the most of life. He's been all over the world. He lived in Cambodia and Thailand. Just based on the humidity alone in either place, I could not have done that. He's been everywhere and done everything. He's worked in the motion picture and the television industry since. He spends his time meditating. And as he puts it, his greatest priorities are his relationship with his creator, with his family, and with the people that he meets. He's in Vegas and talking to us right now from Las Vegas in Nevada. And here he is, Vinnie Tolman. Welcome to Another Side of Midnight, Vin.
Thank you so much, TJ. It's my pleasure to be here, brother.
Thank you. Thank you very much. And I'm really grateful for the time and for this fascinating conversation that we're going to have. So listen, man, I know we spoke this afternoon, and at one point I said, you know what? I said, let's stop because I want to save it for the air. I want to keep it an organic, true, searching conversation. And so let's roll with it. And let me just ask you, what happened 20 years ago on January 18th? 22 years ago in 2003. What happened on January 18th to you, buddy?
So a buddy of mine and we were into amateur bodybuilding, and we ordered a supplement that was just really popular everywhere at every store. So we ordered some online because it was sold out everywhere. And when it finally came, it came from Thailand. And we both took our normal dose, which was a liquid bottle cap of this liquid supplement. But what we didn't know is if we could read the Thai script on the bottle, it would have said that was 20 times too much. We were supposed to take a single drop of this liquid and not a full bottle cap. But the American stuff, you would take a full bottle cap. So, it was a treacherous mistake. We both felt instantly that we were ill. And, being 25 years old and thinking that you're invincible,
sure,
we decided rather than call emergency services, we would go down to a Dairy Queen and eat and get some food.
Yeah, get something in your system. By all means, let's get a burger and some ice cream.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's what 25-year-olds think. Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, exactly. So we did that. We went down, we barely pulled into the Dairy Queen. My buddy who was driving had almost lost consciousness as we were parking the car. I stumbled in. I went directly into the bathroom right as you enter the door.
Mm-hmm.
And then my buddy went in and he collapsed on the dining booth and he began to vomit. So they were able to get emergency services called and pick him up right away. Within minutes of him being found there, they got him in an ambulance and he ended up being just fine. But meanwhile, I'm behind a locked door in a single-use bathroom, and I had lost my balance and collapsed on the floor. And while I was laying there unconscious, I started to vomit. And so I, too, with that vomiting, I aspirated. And that aspiration is what ended up killing me. It was a good 45 minutes later when a customer in the restaurant made the manager open the bathroom, because it had been almost an hour that door had been locked.
So let me paint the picture. So they called an ambulance for your buddy because he was out in the restaurant. So in other words, people didn't really take notice of the fact that, and if anything was going to make people forget that, wow, didn't somebody walk into the bathroom? Is somebody almost dying in the restaurant? So they call an ambulance while they're working on your buddy, and the whole world is looking at your buddy. You've already died. You're dead in the bathroom.
Yes.
Okay, so go ahead. So they say, open that door.
So they open the door and they see a dead guy on the floor. And at this point, I was now not in that room. I was above that room looking down. And I truly believed that I was watching some type of entertainment. I didn't think it was me because me was up above this whole scene looking down. And the body that I was looking at, it didn't look like me anymore. So there was no connection there. And it's the oddest thing. It's like pulling up to a car next to you. Well, for you New Yorkers, you might not get this analogy, but it's like pulling up to a car next to you and it looks like your car. And the person driving it looks just like you, but it's not you because you're in your car. That's what it felt like.
So
I felt like I was removed from the scene.
So that's what. So you were conscious of the fact that you were watching something, but you were not thinking in the context of, well, I'm dead now, or I'm above. This is me looking down. I'm above. What was left of your quote unquote consciousness was telling you that you were watching a scene.
Well, back then, a year or so before that, I worked for a company called Caroline Productions, and we produced a major TV show. So all I was doing was analyzing why a director would shoot this film from above.
I totally get it. I totally get it, because your consciousness for a long time was camera angles and shots and lighting, and so in your mind, your conscious thought, I'm looking at a setup here. I'm looking at a scene. I'm looking at a shot.
And I was just trying to understand, empathy-wise, why would this director choose to do that,
Wow.
And as I'm watching all this happen, I did notice that my buddy, I watched him go away in an ambulance. So I recognized that was my buddy. Mm-hmm. But for some reason, the logic side of our consciousness, it wasn't playing a part yet, not until later. So I did watch them get a second ambulance there. Mm. The second ambulance had a rookie on the team. So it was a 3-man team. And this rookie, he was tasked with babysitting this body. They did do a pronouncement of death, time of death. They put the body in a bag. They put it in the back of the ambulance with this rookie. And his job was to babysit this body while they went and had some discussions with some of the witnesses. Well, when this was all done and it was time to leave the scene, They pulled about a block or a block and a half away from the scene when this rookie, he felt something come over him to tell him that he needed to try to resuscitate this body, even though everything in his training said that this was a dead man. And he did. He broke protocol. He unzipped the body bag. He had to undo a couple of straps. He was feeling around for a pulse. He couldn't feel one. So he had to unzip even further and take another strap off of the gurney. And when he got to the femoral artery, the artery on the inside of your thigh, when he got there, he was pushing to try to make contact with that artery, but he made contact with my femur bone. And when he did, I felt a shock, a spark, and like a high voltage spark in me, where I was sitting up here watching, but I watched him jump too. And so that was my first instance or inkling that what I was watching was not some type of entertainment. This was interactive, and it had something to do with me. Wow. So this rookie, I mean, he is my miracle worker, one of many through this process. He got a defib machine hooked up on the body. First round of shocks, there was no heartbeat. Second round of shocks, there was a single heartbeat, but very faint. And then on the third round of shocks, there was a steady heartbeat. And an additional miracle to just this rookie doing this is when the heart started back up, they were less than a half block from a trauma center that was ready for cardiology and all sorts of emergencies. So they were able to divert. Their original path was to turn this body into the local medical examiner, and they were able to divert that path and go directly to this hospital. And as they transferred the body over from the ambulance gurney into the hospital, it started to go into seizures, and they had to strap it down with straps.
You're saying it. I'm sorry. And by the way, everybody, we're talking to Vinnie Tolman. When that shock happened, when he touched your femur, and then now as we're getting these paddles, at what point do you go from observer to being back in the context of the moment? At what point do you go from watching to being in it and knowing it? And if we're not there yet, then we're not there yet. But we're there. We're in the chronology of it. We're right there. And now, did you and at no point am I being silly. I might say something that sounds very colloquial and very basic, but worries. But was there a moment when you zapped back into your body? Was there a moment when you suddenly were back in and now you were looking in a first person kind of thing, where you were looking out through your own eyes?
Not yet. Okay. Not yet. Not till days later.
Oh, geez. Okay. All right. Well, okay. Yeah. Well, okay. So then I'll shut the hell up. You go ahead. So now they're giving the paddles. The heartbeat is now, and they're a half a block away from the trauma center. Go ahead.
Yeah, so we get, in the journey there, they got to the trauma center, and these medics, they were transferring the body over to the medical staff at the hospital, and that's when the body started going into these seizures. They strapped the body down, and that's when I felt someone strapping me down.
Okay.
Up where I was watching up above. I literally felt someone strapping me, and when I looked down to see how I could be strapped to something, I looked down on where my left arm should be, and I was looking at the left arm of the dead body.
Wow.
And that was the first moment that I had this horrific realization that everything I've been watching for almost an hour now, maybe a little longer, it was my own death. And I had these horrible feelings come over me that I had a voice in my head that said, how could you be so ignorant to not know this was you?
Wow.
And I know it was me. It was kind of an ego type energy or voice in my head, in my consciousness. And then as soon as I had that thought, I started seeing like very quick movies in my mind. I started seeing all of the bad things that I ever did, even from my youngest childhood days until the current day. I saw it all. I felt it all. I even felt it from the perspective of those who were receiving any bad behavior from me.
So this is the quintessential, your life flashes before your eyes.
Yes, absolutely. And in a weird process, you recognize each moment, but yet they're going so fast. It seems like they're all combined to be one moment. And I finally get through all of that. And I again hear this ego voice in my consciousness that says, if this is all that I am, why am I me? And as that statement comes out of me, I feel this tremendous amount of love come over me. And I feel warming, even though I'm not in my body, I'm feeling warming coming over me, all over me. And then I start seeing all the good that I ever did in my life.
Wow.
All of it.
So first you saw the bad stuff. And I'm sorry to interrupt. I'm sorry. I know you're on a roll. But first you saw, and I wonder what the purpose is here. I wonder what, I don't know if I want to digress into trying to figure it out until you're done with this narrative. But so the first thing that you are shown or conscious of or seeing is the bad things that you did. You're questioning yourself. You're looking at this reel, at this sizzle reel, to use the parlance of the industry. You're watching this highlight reel of the bad things you did. And sure enough, here comes that conscious. It's interesting. You use the term ego voice. Your guilty conscience that probably has like gnawed at you and ate at you your whole life is showing you this and making you feel bad. And just at this juncture in your second life and on the other side, just when you start to think, oh my God, I've blown it. I've blown a life. Now you're seeing all the good you've done and you're feeling the love. I wonder what love you were feeling. I wonder if you were feeling the love that you were receiving from other people when you did those good things. Or I wonder if that was, you were feeling a love for yourself, all of the above. But go ahead. So now you're watching.
All of the above. All of the above for sure. I was feeling a tremendous sense of love, and it was coming from everywhere. But it was coming very, very strongly from behind me. So as soon as I got to the end of this positive life review, I felt a very strong decision inside my own consciousness that I was worth something because I did do so much good, but that was my human intelligence, my earthly intelligence. And as I turned around to see where this energy was coming from, I saw this man standing there, all dressed in white, long white beard, very pink skin, these eyes that felt like they could pierce your soul and give your heart a hug. Just this tremendous force of a man just standing there. And the only thing I could feel from him was just this serenity and this love and a love that I had never experienced on earth, ever, not even for a second. And as he was pouring that over me, and it was just coming through his look, his energy of facing me, I had this thought, oh, this is God. And as soon as I had that thought, it was the weirdest thing. It was as if I heard my own thought out loud, speaking to him. And then without him moving his mouth at all, he said, "No, son, I'm not God." And you know, he followed up a little bit later. He said, "My name is Drake, and I'm here to be your guide. I'm here to help you go wherever you want to go."
Whew. Wow.
And that was a whopper for me. I didn't know quite how to deal with that. And I didn't know where I wanted to go, but yet I could still feel almost as if I was standing in a river of love, that this love was continual and constant. And it didn't matter if I was this bad kid or good kid, it was being poured upon me. And if it was going to be blocked, it was me blocking it.
And were you thinking? And I'm sorry. And were you thinking as you were? Because clearly there was a conscious part of all this, because it's part of your memory. It's part of your human conscious memory. So you are here 23 years later talking about this. So were you at all thinking again in the context of, well, you said, are you God? And he said, I'm Drake. I'm not God. Were you thinking in terms of, I'm on the other side now? And when he said, I'm here to take you wherever you want to go, help you, basically he was your facilitator. Did you understand what choices you had in front of you? I mean, and was there a sense of time? Was there a sense of tick tock, and not like you had a deadline or things were, but like, was there a sense of normalcy here? Like you were in like a time space continuum? Like, was there anything about this that was kind of normal?
Well, from my perspective of how it was all happening, it felt like time itself was like a public swimming pool. And it felt like this process had allowed me to get out of it. Yeah.
Okay.
To leave it.
Say that again and sort of rephrase it. Time was a public swimming pool. Oh, wait. And you were sort of in it with with other people. Well, that's another thing too, by the way. Was it just you? What was the surrounding? What was the backdrop here? Was it just dark? I'm sorry, you said it was light. So was that light against a backdrop of darkness, or was it?
It was a foggy, foggy lightness.
Okay.
But I could see that if I had enough clarity on my vision, I could probably see through that and see the cosmos or see whatever would be there. But I could tell there was something there, but it was a bit foggy, but it was so bright, especially around this Drake guy.
Mm-hmm.
So he told me, he said, hey, I could take you wherever you want to go.
Right.
And I told him, I want to go wherever this river of love is coming from. That's where I want to go.
Okay.
And he said, well, that's coming from your home and my home. And we could both go there. And I got really excited. And I said, let's do it. Let's go to our home. And so he began this journey with me.
Right.
And the journey itself, it was not so much distance. It did feel like distance, but it felt more climbing through what I would perceive as dimensions. And each dimension had a specific principle and energy to it. And one of the first things he told me is I had to realize who I really was. Mm. He showed me that in my earth life, I had many different sides of myself. I had one mask I would put on for my TV show friends. Mm-hmm. I had one mask that I put on for my construction friends because I did a lot of construction. Mm-hmm. I had one mask I'd put on for my bodybuilder friends or my gym, the gym rat friends.
Right.
And I'd worked concerts and I'd done a lot of different stuff over the years. So I had all these different masks. And Drake showed me that for me to go with him, I had to learn how to put down all the masks and see what was behind the mask.
Whoa.
And that once I could do that, I would be able to go with him.
All right.
It didn't take that long, but he did help me.
I think we're about to now sort of make a turn here, or at least change direction or go a little further. So this is the perfect moment to take a break. We have just this quick bottom of the hour break. So stay right there. Everybody, we're talking with Vinnie Tolman. You can go to Instagram. You can see Living God's Light. Okay. You go to Instagram and look up at Living God's Light. You can also go to thelightafterdeath.com because Vin has wrote a book about his experiences. And the title of the book is The Light After Death, My Journey to Heaven and Back. And it's Vin's near-death experience and journey to heaven and back. So you go to thelightafterdeath.com, take a look at his book, and also has got a very interesting Instagram at Living God's Light. Okay, gang? So stay right there, everyone. We're going to take a quick break. This is Another Side of Midnight with TJ McCormick. 1-800-848-9222. 1-800-848-9222. We'll be right back with Vinnie Tolman.
It's Another Side of Midnight. all night long. This is Another Side of Midnight
with TJ McCormack.
77 WABC. It's Another Side of Midnight.
Political humorist TJ McCormack.
Now, to the Bernard McGurk studios of 77 WABC.
Here's TJ McCormack.
It's Another Side of Midnight.
Political humorist TJ McCormack.
Now, to the Bernard McGurk studios.
Here's TJ McCormack.
An angel whispered to me when I woke this morning that I would find heaven by my side. And there you were, you angel, heaven in the morning, laying in my arms and in my life.
I got to tell you, I love great production, and I love these guys that I get to work with on the weekends here. What a gift! Thank you, dudes. Thank you, Bill. Man, when everything comes together and just people make a better show, it means a lot. So this is Another Side of Midnight with TJ McCormack, and we are speaking with Vinnie Tolman. You go to Instagram at Living God's Light and go to thelightafterdeath.com and learn more about Vinny's book, The Light After Death, My Journey to Heaven and Back. Vin, all right. So let's pick up where we left off. We are okay. So go ahead. Keep going because I'm beside myself. I just dropped a video on Twitter begging people, if they're not doing anything, to tune in right now because this is one of the most fascinating, profound conversations I've ever had in my life. So I believe that you are about to make your way towards your destination.
Yes. So my guide that was here to
Drake.
Drake. He was there to take me from, the earthly life.
Was Drake your angel? You're calling him your guide. Was he an angel or was he an angel with a job?
I didn't know. I didn't quite know what he was, but I'll give you a little insight on that.
Okay.
It wasn't but 6 months later, I was in a little town in Wyoming, and I saw him presented as part of the historical founders of the town. But his name was Charles, not Drake. And but he had the same last name as my grandmother. So I went to my grandmother and asked her, who's this Charles Kazare? And she said, oh, you mean great grandpa Drake. He's kind of famous.
Oh my God.
And that was it. This was long after I was back and I was conscious and
right.
and trying to pick up the pieces and live.
Sure.
And I saw that and it really was a nice confirmation that this was not some kind of delusion.
Wow. All right. So you are on your way to your destination. You're going to your home, I think was how you referred to it, your collective home.
Yeah. What we call on earth heaven or nirvana or whatever you want to call it. It's this place that all of our soul energies came from originally. And he was taking me there. He was taking me to this place. And along the way, he had a few more things he wanted me to understand and embrace. I didn't have to fully accept them. I just had to accept that it was possibly true. And one that really bothered me is he said, a big part of this place is you can't carry any prejudice with you. None. And I said, well, that's fine. I was raised in, I'm Caucasian. I probably sound like it.
Yeah, you sound really white. Yeah, no, go ahead.
Like saltine white.
Yes,
no.
yes.
But I've got two sisters that are Korean and they're adopted.
Oh, okay.
And so I felt like part of that biracial family environment that I was raised in, that there wasn't room for prejudice. I didn't feel I had any.
It's also an odd thing that the idea that an earthly concept or burden or whatever of prejudice would even come up in this conversation as
Yeah.
you enjoy. The fact that it would even be a thing is fascinating to hear. But in real time, as I'm processing what you're telling me, it's also telling me that prejudice is a real damn thing. Like like it's not something to just be dismissed. I mean, it really is a major thing that we all have to wrestle with. If it's something that you hear on the way to heaven, hey, look, when we get there, you can't be prejudiced. If that means that what we're wrestling with here on earth in our daily dismal lives, that's why it's such a beast to tame,
to tackle.
To tackle.
It is.
All right, go ahead. So he says you can't have any prejudice.
Yeah, he says I can't have any prejudice, and I told him I don't have any. And he said, well, how do you feel about prejudiced people then? And that's when I told him, I go, well, they're horrible. I don't like prejudiced people. And he showed me that by me hating prejudiced people, I myself was prejudiced.
Because you have to show compassion for people, because a prejudice is a burden. It's a flaw.
It's a judgment, and it's also this belief that you are in a position to judge someone else. Mm-hmm. And he helped me release that off of myself. And I did have to choose to let it go. Mm-hmm. And prejudice isn't something, if somebody could allow themselves to have enough self-love, they can get into that home, that heaven space.
Yeah.
But part of that authentic self-love is to not have prejudice, because believe it or not, for every ounce of prejudice that we have on the outside, we've got 10 ounces towards ourself on the inside. And that's that whole process. Is prejudice is a two-way street, even when we think we don't have it.
Wow. All right. Okay. So he gave you that little bit of advice. You guys keep, and now when we say moving on, as you travel, what is this travel like? What is it? I mean, are you in some way, is it like a journey? I mean, was there a sense that you were in fact moving towards something or away from something else?
Yeah. I could feel like momentum of movement.
Wow.
Even though it didn't feel just distance, you could feel pressure change, you could feel energetic change, but you could also feel the space that we were existing in was getting brighter and brighter and brighter. And I already thought it was as bright as the sun when it began.
Wow.
But it was getting brighter and brighter along the way.
So you knew you were getting somewhere. You knew you were making progress.
Yes. Yeah.
And was there any anticipation? Were you inside like a kid before Christmas, I think would be a way?
I was.
Okay.
Completely.
Okay.
I was so excited to get there. And the weird thing is, it wasn't that I could remember heaven.
Right.
But there was a soul knowing that I missed it, that I ached and missed it somewhere inside my soul.
Oh, that you had been there before. You had been to heaven before.
Yeah, we all have.
Right.
We all have.
Okay. But you say that with such a throwaway, matter of fact. Oh, we all have. We all have.
Yeah. Yeah,
Okay.
I'm friends with a whole bunch of us guys and girls who have died and come back.
Is that what joy is? I'm going to interrupt you. Damn it. I'm going to interrupt you. Is that what joy is? When I look at my daughter, when I look at my daughters, 13 and 16-year-old, and I see my wife and I kiss my wife and I kiss her cheek and her beautiful cheekbones are like right there. And I look in her eye. When I see and when we feel joy, is that joy energy? Is that not knowing what it is? Is that a memory? Is that a memory of heaven? Is that a heaven feeling? In other words, and is that
it's almost like a flashback to what we came from?
And that's why I'm happy, and that's why that's goosebumps. That's a heart flutter. That's the lump in my throat right now.
And more importantly than that, it's a reminder of this creator force, this one source creator who we like to call God, how much that force loves us.
Wow.
It's like a reminder. It's almost like an eyelash.
I get it.
To the great being of love that loves us, that created us.
I totally get it. So that's what joy is. That's what joy and that love feeling when and here's the thing too, man. Oh, and I wonder if there's not a connection here. Can you sense I'm having a moment of clarity? Okay. They say, and I know you have a couple of children as well, and our wives share a name. Vin, they say that you don't know love until you have a child. You don't know how much how much capacity for love until you have a child. And I'm sure that's, a colloquial, earthly way of describing just how overwhelmingly beautiful it is to have a baby. And yet, at the same time, I know the first time that I saw my first child, I realized, wow, no, I've never felt love like this. And I think that's a version of love that means like, this is absolute. Like I would absolutely do anything for my wife, and I would certainly die for my child. I would trade my life for hers. And then the same thing when I had my second child. And so I guess is that right? In other words, is that, are there, keep going. I'm sorry. This is not for my own.
You're awesome, TJ. You're doing great, man. You know what it is here's what it is.
Go.
Is as we learn to love outside ourselves.
Yes.
The love inside ourselves grows. And that's weird because, when you're 20s, you love, mi amigo, you love yourself and you love your friends. Mm-hmm. But your friends you don't truly love. You associate to them. Mm. But, yourself is pretty much the one you love. But once you go into fatherhood or motherhood mm-hmm. and you have that child in your arms, mm-hmm. you feel a whole nother love awaken inside you. And when you find that twin flame, man, when you find that great partner that's willing to put up with your craziness, you get a whole nother love. So it's like when you take these steps of loving outside yourself, you find that the love inside you grows so much more than it ever could by just staying within.
Oh my God. All right, Vinny. All right, here we go. This next break is very quick. When we come back, all right, so I'm just going to, I'm going to set the table so that you can literally just rock and roll when we come back from this break. When we come back, I'm going to ask Vinny Tolman about a couple of more principles that you learned while traveling to heaven. And also, you saw something regarding the souls of children. I want to hear about that when we come back. And that might be the extent of our conversation, at least for tonight. All right. So put on get ready to talk about those couple of things, a couple of more principles that you learned while traveling to heaven. We already touched on like one or two, but then I also want to hear about because I just touched on children here about having I want to hear about something you learned regarding the souls of children, in heaven. And we will return. We're talking to Vinny Tolman, Instagram at Living God's Light, at Living God's Light at Instagram. This is Another Side of Midnight with TJ McCormick. Everybody stay right there. We'll be right back.
All night long, this is Another Side of Midnight
with TJ McCormack.
All night long, this is Another Side of Midnight
with TJ McCormack.
77 WABC. It's Another Side of Midnight.
Political humorist TJ McCormick.
Now, to the Bernard McGurk studios of 77 WABC.
Here's TJ McCormack.
This is Another Side of Midnight
with TJ McCormack.
Now, to the Bernard McGurk studios.
Here's TJ McCormack.
All right. Knock, knock, knocking. Yes, knocking on heaven's door. Vinnie Tolman has been to Heaven's Door, and I'm going to get the heck out of the way and let you keep going. Everybody, welcome back to another side of midnight. Vinnie Tolman is telling us about the journey of all journeys that he made 22 years ago. So keep going. Tell me about a couple of these principles, and you had a profound experience in heaven regarding children.
Well, one of the big things that Drake, my guide, had to tell me is that there's purpose in evil on earth. That for us to have the choice of good, there has to be a choice of bad. And to remove one is to remove the whole option to choose. And so it's a protected thing here, but all the traumas, the worst, most horrible traumas that we can receive from bad behavior and criminal behavior here on earth, it gets washed away from us as we make our journey into our home space, into that heaven realm. And you know, one of the last things he taught me is that we're all one, all of us, that we're all fingers on the Creator's hand, and that when we hurt each other, when we're killing each other, when we're blowing each other up, we're hurting ourselves. And if we keep doing it, we're going to end up, you know, ruining some major chances for this earth. And he kept calling Earth School, by the way. He didn't see it as any kind of courtroom. He always was referring to it as this classroom space, this school that we come to explore what it's like to make choices. Because when we're right near our Creator in our home, the love is so strong there that anything that Source or God or Creator wants, that's what we want. And we can't distinguish our own choices and desires separate from our Creator because that force is so strong. So we choose to forget everything, come down here to Earth School, play around on the playground where we may skin our knee, we may have some damage done to us, but on the way back, we get the mending, we get the healing. And I got to see that, you know, many people that lose children here, there's this special, it feels like a decompression spiritual spa in the heavenly realm where we get to go there and have all the lost experiences that we felt we were robbed of in this life. And just knowing that, it can help us, you know, release and move on and allow life to meet us in our daily lives and meet us in our face and let us, you know, step into the light. Because so many of us let our traumas become everything that we see. And it can be debilitating, myself included. In the past, I did that.
We carry it with you. We carried these things with us as like intellectual, spiritual baggage.
Yes. And you know, in that process of going to our home, your helper, you know, we're all going to have the helper that we're supposed to have. Mine was this Drake guy who turned out to be my great-great-great-grandfather. And, you know, everyone's going to have their own helpers. Some of them will be even some religious figures. But in that process, those helpers are going to help clean you and clear you of the breaking, the damage that this Earth School brings and allows. But it's part of the process so that we can have the pristine ability to choose, because choosing is where we grow the most. You know so much about yourself by your choices. You know even more about your friends by their choices. So, you know, it's a big part of our growth here. And as I spent some time, a bit of time in this heavenly realm, I was brain dead for 3 days. And, you know, they did get my heart back, but they couldn't get my brain back.
Okay.
And so for those 3 days, I was in this heaven realm with Drake. And on the end of the third day, a special prayer was given over my body in the hospital. And before I knew it, I woke up at 1:11 in the morning on January 21st, where I had gone in the hospital on the 18th. And so I had all these days of zero brain activity.
Right.
And when I woke up, I had neurologists telling me that this is a fluke, that I was going to go back unconscious and I was going to be a vegetable again. And, they even talked to my brother about palliative care and what that is, and, where you send someone who is on life support for the rest of their life.
Right.
So it was a very serious situation. And, even though I woke up, nobody wanted to let me out of the hospital. So I had to do 6 hours of tests before I could prove to them. I did every department that they could think of. I had to clear every department, like cardiology, neurology, like everything. Sure. I had to clear everything. And once I cleared it all, I left that hospital at 7:30 in the morning. And I had this new journey to try to figure out why. Number one, why was I sent back?
Right.
That to me felt like a curse at the time.
Have you found out why? Have you learned?
I have.
Why?
And I see it every time I see my wife's face.
Mm-hmm.
I see it every time I see my kids.
Mm-hmm.
That's why. And also to remind all of us that that's where we came from. I've been so blessed to work with thousands of people, and in a one-to-one basis even.
Yeah, what do you do? Now you mentioned when we spoke briefly today that you're kind of like a mechanic. Tell me, and give me like a 3-minute elevator pitch of where you are now. I know physically you're in Las Vegas, which needs a lot of soul mechanics. But but tell me, Vinnie Tolman, tell me what your life is like now.
So I call myself a soul mechanic because that's kind of how Spirit has described me. And what I do is I help people do some of that cleaning up their soul while they're here. So it's not such a big process on the journey. And you'd be surprised, some of the littlest traumas that are on us as children.
Right.
They build our paradigm of how we receive the world on a daily basis. And we don't have to do that. We can let our successes and embrace the love moments of our life and let those things propel us forward instead of our fears, instead of our lack of love, or heaven forbid, our traumas. And so that's what I do. I'm not a therapist. I'm nothing like that. I work as a life coach, but it functions as a soul mechanic.
And
we go in and we just fix stuff.
And you basically it's all based upon. I'm asking, is it based upon everything that you learned in that journey home? After I had my experience, I could hear and speak to Spirit, and it really freaked me out. I sought professional medical help, and only to find out that these spirits I was talking to were legitimate and very real things, and not some kind of delusion. Right.
And in that process, I've been trained to help people.
And you've heard from and you clearly have been in touch with other people that have had your experience, as you said, and you all share this. This is universal. What you experienced, it's universal. It happened to everybody else that you've met.
What's neat is I'm part of an organization called the International Association of Near-Death Studies, or IANDS.org. So this IANDS organization, they study people that have died and come back, and then they also study people that have had major spiritual experiences too. So it's a very beautiful organization. We have I call it a dead people convention. We have it every year.
Sure.
And a bunch of people who have died and kind of got spat back out of heaven.
Yeah.
And we all have so many of the similar characteristics with each other's stories. But what's really the beautiful thing is when you see a brother or sister who has been through what you've been through, you found family. And it's such an amazing thing. It helps you see family and everyone you can be around.
What a club.
Yeah.
Vinnie Tolman, brother, you have a sense of a lot of things, including timing, because now we must part. But I'm going to keep you close. I'm going to be in Vegas next week. Maybe I'll send you a note. Maybe we get a cup of coffee.
Let's do it.
I would love that. Dude, thank you so much for making this show amazing this morning. Everybody, go learn more. Go to Instagram at Living God's Light at Instagram, and go take a look at The Light After Death. Learn more about Vinnie Tolman's book, The Light After Death, My Journey to Heaven and Back. Vinnie Tolman, thank you so much. God bless you, and have a great Sunday.
God bless you too. God bless you, TJ, and Andrea, and the kids.
Yes, and to you. All right, we'll be in touch. Maybe I'll see you next week. Everyone, we shall return to Another Side of Midnight in just a few moments. We'll be joined by Ellen Karras. David in the Bronx, stay right there. We'll talk to you. Everybody, hang in there. We shall return after 4.
This is Another Side of Midnight
with TJ McCormack.
Now, to the Bernard McGurk studios of 77 WABC.
Here's TJ McCormack.
This is Another Side of Midnight
with TJ McCormack.
Now, to the Bernard McGurk studios of 77 WABC.
Here's TJ McCormack.
It's Another Side of Midnight.
Political humorist TJ McCormick.
Now, to the Bernard McGurk Studios.
Here's TJ McCormack.
And now joining us here on Another Side of Midnight with TJ McCormick, we have really for the first time ever somebody that for everybody listening doesn't need an introduction. I'm very, very happy to welcome Charlie Sheen to the show. Good morning, Charlie. Welcome.
Good morning, TJ. Thank you. Thank you. That's a lovely intro, even though it wasn't supposed to be introed.
Yes, true. Yes.
All right.
Yeah, he doesn't need
it.
one. He doesn't need one, but I'm going to give one because, perfunctory stuff,
I'll take it. Thank you. Thank you.
Well, listen, man, congratulations on everything going on in your life now. You've got a hit on Netflix, which is reaching a fantastic audience, and which we'll talk about. And you've also got this great new memoir called The Book of Sheen. Congratulations on all of this, man.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Yeah, it's exciting. I mean, who would have thought that I checked two boxes for two projects that I've never done before, and just rolling the dice, and that they happened at the same time and weren't planned as such.
Really? Oh, okay. Tell me about that. How did it come to be then?
I wasn't like, all right, this is the 1-2 punch that's going to, set the record straight and get everybody's attention. No, it wasn't anything like that. I've been thinking about the book for a long time, but didn't have enough perspective, didn't have enough distance between, all the stuff and the now, and so I just knew, I knew that I would know when the time was right to say yes and sit down and start it. And then this gentleman named Andrew Renzi comes into my life, and I watched a couple of the documentaries that he did. And there was one called Pepsi, Where's My Jet, which I thought was brilliant, right? And the storytelling. And then I was like, well, he's never really done a celebrity doc. And I hate the word celebrity,
right?
Even though I think celebrate is kind of the root word of it, right? Which is fine.
Sure.
He'd never done a doc about a well-known actor. How about that?
Okay.
But he did this episode of Untold about Jake Paul that I watched, and I was like, oh, damn. Okay. All right.
Yeah.
This guy knows what the hell he's doing.
Yeah.
Like on every front,
Yeah.
And so when we sat down, it just happened to be right around the time that I was planning on starting the book. And it really, they actually kind of fed each other, because the research that Renzi and I did for a year leading up to actually sitting down for those interviews was research that was lending itself to the book as well.
Right. And the book, by the way, again, the book is called The Book of Sheen, a memoir. It reads, your style strikes me a lot like Hunter S. Thompson.
That's amazing. Wow.
There's a really cool beat to how you write. You write like you talk. You talk like you write. You get the sense that a lot of this stuff was hitting you organically in the moment, and it was making its way from your brain to the page in that order in very short time. And it doesn't feel like a ton of editing either. It feels like it just really flowed, and you were just sitting there telling the truth in a really fun way.
That's amazing. Thank you. I'm literally going to call my mom today.
Yeah.
And tell her that you said that.
Yeah.
About Hunter Thompson.
Oh, totally, man. Oh, totally.
Seriously.
Yeah.
That's like, that is, wow. That is like a giant high five. Thank you.
No, of course.
Well, that's the reason that I knew I had to write it myself.
Yes.
They had talked about a ghostwriter, and I'm like, but then I'm just a storyteller again. And I think that's what separates the book from the doc is, there's a lot of pressure to perform when you're on camera. And be yourself and all that. But you still have to be engaging, entertaining, concise, detailed, right?
Yeah.
But to tell that story or a similar version of it, and you have 2 weeks just by yourself at like 3 a.m. when all the voices are screaming.
Yes. I know those voices. I know those voices.
I mean, they're all me.
Yeah.
They're just different accents of me.
Mm-hmm.
So it isn't one of those deals. But no, I love that you've highlighted that the book it's a fun read. It's a fun read, and people aren't reading these days.
Nope.
You know?
No, man.
And
I don't
and
read.
Then
I don't read, but I got it. I got the book, and I found myself like tackling it, and in the middle of it, consciously going, "Oh my God, I'm reading."
That's awesome. That is awesome. How about that? We're turning back the clock, man. We're bringing something back. You know.
Well, and I think what people are digging about. I mean, look, the kind of career you have when you're a film star and then you've got the 2.5 Men and this and that, and that's. People's living rooms, that's not just like a Q, what do they call it? A Q factor. It's people love you. Like people dig you and they love having you in their living room. And I think when you're going through your trials and your tribulations, I think you have more people rooting for you than the usual celeb. I think a lot of celebs, celebrated actors, I think a lot of people find themselves up against it. People feeling, well, good, knock them down a peg. But I think in your case, because I was living in LA when you were hitting some of these low points, I guess you could say, some of these struggles, these headwinds. I was living in Los Angeles and I was swimming in some of those circles. I was a stand-up and an actor myself, and
wow.
And I knew some of some people that were in your universe, and it was really interesting how many people were rooting for you. And so when this book comes out, and it's an honest to God, really cool, fun account of the early days, the beginnings of somebody who would eventually come to endear themselves and find their way into tens of millions of Americans' living rooms every week. I think it's the kind of thing that's just going to just propel this book, and clearly already the Netflix show, into the next level. And
that's amazing. Thank you.
No,
Thank you.
You're
Wow.
welcome. And so, listen, you start off, though. I think this is what grabs me. You start off opening, you pull back the curtain, curtain opens, and you're already almost dead. Wait. So, give me a little idea. Tell people about why you made that choice and about your early near death birth experience.
Because I was walking around with that line in my head for like 3 or 4 years. I don't have it perfectly memorized, but on September 3rd, 1965, in New York City at 10:58 p.m., I was born dead. And I thought, okay, now if you think about the two quotes that the book, it's Hemingway and Cheech and Chong, right?
Yep.
So I thought, all right, what supports that? All right, born dead. It just doesn't, a complete oxymoron, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then, I had these stuttering problems as a child and into adulthood, and still kind of lurks, it's still there a little bit. And so I wanted to explore that the umbilical strangulation could have been connected to that.
Mm-hmm.
I also, I've had a middle name my whole life that people have made fun of.
Mm-hmm.
And I've had to always, try to take some false pride, and it's the Irwin with an I, right? Like that matters.
Uh-huh.
It's still that name, right?
Yeah.
And so I just kind of saw opportunity in that first chapter to talk about that stuff, and also set the tone a little bit. That this is, I wanted people to feel like they were being, or the audience or the reader, like they were going into something that could be described in complete sorrow or darkness or, all of that. But there's humor, and they're like suddenly laughing where they're not sure if they're supposed to be.
Right.
And so I think it kind of sets the tone early on for what to expect. There's no false advertising right off the bat. And even the title was kind of tongue in cheek, that I just came up with like a few days before I had my first meeting with the publisher, right? Mm-hmm. And they're like, well, what do you think? And they said, okay, so we like this title. Do you have anything else? I said, I don't right now.
Yeah.
I said, okay, then let's just keep it until something shows up that beats it.
Yeah. And
nothing did.
Nothing beat it. It works, man. It totally works. It's fun. It's, like you said, it's tongue in cheek. It's bravado-ish from a guy that's obviously turned a really humble corner in life and is appreciating everything that you have. I think you look at. I get the sense that you look at life as a blessing, as a gift, and you speak and write beautifully about your dad and your mom and your this brood and of a family that you grew up in, and so really again it reads beautifully. Everybody, as if you don't recognize the voice, we're talking to Charlie Sheen here on Another Side of Midnight, and the name of the book that we're celebrating right now is called The Book of Sheen, and October 19th, everybody, just up 95 in New Haven, Charlie will be there in a conversation setting there at the Schubert Theater on October 19th, 8 p.m. So go and find tickets for that evening's conversation with Charlie Sheen again at the Schubert Theater on October 19th. Charlie, when I think about your public life, you've been public for forever, ever since you showed up next to Jennifer Grey in Ferris Bueller's Day Off, which is. You were hysterical in that 3-minute moment. That was freaking funny, man. Ever since then, you've been a regular, you've been a constant. But in those funky years, it wasn't always on your own terms, right? So you were kind of thrust into a spotlight, and it wasn't pretty. Look, I'm sober. I went through all my trials and tribulations quietly in a house in Los Angeles, dealing with just my wife in the darkness of alcoholism. I wasn't living out my demons in prime time and on TMZ and other programs. It was just unfortunately I was starring in that role in my own living room. But anyway, I say that to say. To ask you, does this memoir, in your own words, on your own terms, does this allow you to drive? Did you find this was an opportunity for you to drive your own narrative, to sort of help define yourself now at this point, rather than just let old stories be old stories about you?
Absolutely, absolutely. No, you nailed it, 100%. And just let people in a way that that I could really only do on the page. You know what I'm saying? Because the performance aspect of telling stories on camera, you know what I'm saying, versus I wanted the reader or the audience to feel like they're just in the room with me, or on the road trip with me, or on the relapse with me.
Yeah.
Right there. That the kind of a sidecar view of some of the madness, but yeah, and I just wanted to, there's some themes in the book. There's the theme of choices, so many things come down to the things that we, the decisions that we make, and ownership. I think ownership is so important.
Yep.
If you live in a place of blame, you're never going to get to the next moment or the next flashpoint or springboard or just revelatory breakthrough.
Right.
If it stays about the fault of others,
Yeah.
and it's like and it's stuff that we've that we learned in kindergarten.
Yeah. I think it's about ownership, and it's also about gratitude. I think if you're in a state of gratitude, dude, I mean,
absolutely, and it's maybe my life right now isn't like how I imagined it. Okay, so based on what?
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Based on what sliding scale or what rule book or what manual, right?
Yeah.
And I,
totally.
kind of kind of living life backwards in a way. In some of the superficial, items. Like, I used to live in giant houses, and now I live in a smaller place,
Right.
I used to own 50 cars.
Yeah.
I own one.
Wow. Sorry, man.
But
sorry to hear that.
How many can I drive at once?
Right? Yeah, exactly. Boy, I tell
How
you
many-
what, man. Yeah.
Well, people get a giant house, and then they go out and they spend a ton of money and they put furniture in every room, right?
Right.
And occupy like 20% of those rooms, right?
Yeah.
And it's just there for when you give people that first tour. And then there's the ante room.
Right.
What is an ante room?
Right, yeah. Here's the waiting chamber. Here's the
Exactly.
Right.
Anything with chamber attached to it,
Yeah.
good things don't happen in that space.
No, good things don't happen in a chamber, and there's not a lot of gratitude in the life of someone,
who's in a place with chambers.
Yeah, right. That's medieval, dude. That's medieval, right? Yeah.
It is medieval. Yeah, you can smell that room just talking about it, right?
Yep, totally.
So anyway, but it's exactly what you said. It goes back to gratitude, and it's this whole thing about need versus want.
Yeah.
Need versus want.
Yeah.
And even just on a very smaller example, I have to some days say, okay, we are on a timeout.
Yeah.
From Amazon. We are on a 1 week timeout.
Yeah.
I don't care if my shoes are falling apart. My shoes aren't falling apart. They never get to that place, right?
Right.
I mean, I have a blessed life that is abundant, and I don't, I'm so grateful because, how many people are as lonely as they've ever been in a mansion?
Wow.
Right? I mean, it's just like, and there's that line in there about that Dad was never comfortable in places like that. He preferred, a home.
Yeah.
And then I say something like, the more people rely on glitz and doubloonery for their identity, the more, the more unidentified they remain.
Yep.
And that's a word I just built. I just said, all right, this is now a word, and I don't care.
I had to look it up. I was like, is this a word? It was brilliant. Doubloonary, man. I mean, it was because it also elicits images of pirates and booty and treasure and
glistening gold, right?
Yes.
Or glinting, rather. Glinting gold. Yeah, man.
Yeah. Oh, no, it was brilliant. Doubloonary. I mean, I actually told a buddy of mine in the car on the way here to the studio to record this. We were talking. I told him I was going to be talking to you, and I said, "You ever hear the word doubloonary?" And he took a guess, and I was like, "Yeah, that's what he meant." You mentioned your dad.
Awesome.
You mentioned your dad, and I'm just wondering. I'm curious about the role that your dad, your brothers, your sister. What role your mom? What did they play in the process of writing the book? And I'm also curious about your recovery journey. Tell me about the role that they might have played in some of these recent years in your life.
They've been my biggest supporters. They've been the voices of compassion and reason and love. When those were the only voices, they've been just as welcoming and non-judgmental. Because, and I'm sure you experienced this in the past before you finally said, all right, this time's for real, right?
Yeah. Yep.
Is the doubt from people, right? And it's not imagined. It's not like they're basing it on, it's not baseless. It's people get gun shy, right?
Yeah.
Well, someone that says, I'm all right, everything's great, and then it's not great. And it's like, all right, we're doing this again, and then you didn't do it again. And it's just that kind of that revolving door, And so they never left my side. They never they never gave up on me. And, you know, my mom wrote me something, and I hope she doesn't mind me revealing this. And it's so powerful. I visited them yesterday because I've been on the road, and they kind of been catching glimpses here and there.
You've been all over the place. Yeah,
I have. But my parents don't watch YouTube. I mean, let's face it, right? They're not following my socials. Yeah, I'd be worried. If they were.
Right.
Right. That's a whole nother conversation, right?
Yeah.
So I went there yesterday. It was just a drop in, just to give them a hug, and because they're going on a trip. And then we had a lovely visit. And I when I got home, there's a text from my mom. And she said, congratulations, you've become your own best friend.
Ooh.
And I was like, that stopped me. That stopped me in my tracks. And I wrote her back immediately, and I said, wow, thank you. Your words stunned. I don't know if I said stunned me, but just your words hit.
But
hit home
what do you think
all the way to the bottom.
What do you think she was contrasting that to, buddy? Because our moms, like my mom is listening right now to this show. Okay, my mom will send me notes the day, a text after the show, and she'll tell me what she liked from the night before, and I'm, you know, and moms always pay it. As long as we have our moms, and you and I are both blessed to have our moms. As long as we have them, they're always our moms. We are still 14. We're still 8. You know, to them. And so, what do you think she was contrasting that to when she said to you, "You're your own best friend"? Congratulations. What do you think?
Well, I think she said. I think she said finally.
Finally. Okay, so finally, you're your own best friend. What do you think?
I think it's about always putting others first, taking care of everybody but me. You know, and I think it was really about that. Just that I've taken the time and the discipline and cleaned up my health, lost a lot of weight. You know, do a lot of good stuff, you know, vitamins and, you know, the whole package, right?
Yeah, totally.
And just being consistent with it.
Because when she sees you, she sees your eyes. When she sees you, she's looking at your skin tone. She's looking at your...
Exactly.
Right? She's looking at her baby.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah. And she's seen the dower or the you know, the kind of the shallow version of, you know, that she's seen for so many years.
Right.
You know.
Right. Well, you were on the edge at one point, buddy. You were like, could have gone either way, man. Right. I mean.
Oh yeah.
Geez,
oh yeah.
Right.
Oh, and that's the thing I hang on to today is that I've just dedicated it as a reality that the next hit is fatal.
Yeah. Yep.
And that's just, and that real or imagined, debatable or otherwise, that's what I'm going with. The next hit is fatal.
Yeah.
And I see my kids at my funeral.
Yeah.
And I see all the people, like, you know, and it's not like a funeral or a guy gets hit by a train in his car, right?
Right.
Because there's going to be a couple chuckles from the podium, right?
Yes.
Because how do you not see a train coming or hear it? Right.
Yep.
So I mean,
you had all that time to get the car off the tracks.
Thank you.
You know, and you did.
So,
and thank God you did. And that's what your mom is recognizing.
Exactly. And it's just, I think there's another message inside of that, you know, give yourself a pat on the back, you know, because I don't know if I'm sure you experience this. We stay, you know, we build momentum and we're, you know, and it's the right kind of momentum and we're taking care of everything and we're on time and we're front and center and we're the guy people rely on. Right. And then but we're not always honoring ourselves in that, because you know, we don't put ourselves first. You know, and especially with children. Do you have kids?
I have 2 teenage daughters. Yeah.
So you know. Yeah. But I think it's just carving out a little bit of time for ourselves, just to. Yeah. You know, I heard a guy say years ago. he hopes that his prayer at night was that he hopes to be treated tomorrow exactly how he treated everybody today.
That'll keep you honest, right?
Exactly. Meaning if he was a dick, he's going to encounter that.
Dude, it's because, you know what, and by the way, everybody, we're talking to Charlie Sheen, and the book is The Book of Sheen, and I think honestly, dude, he referred to it like celebrity, celebrated actor. You're celebrating your own story, which deserves to be celebrated because you're on the road to a very happy crescendo, as opposed to like a tragic crash that everybody would have been mourning. So many people, because everybody had just fallen in love with you over those years of great success. And so this Book of Sheen and the program on Netflix, which is AKA Charlie Sheen, it's all a celebration, and it's well deserved. But what I'm getting to though is this: what you just said. It's all about behavior. My sobriety. It's not about not drinking anymore for me. It's not about that. I mean, yes, of course, I can't drink. It's a non-starter, but it's about the behavior. My alcoholism lives in my behavior, because if I'm being lousy to my wife, who saved my life by kicking me out of the house. We were living in Sherman Oaks. We were living in Studio City when I got sober. I got sober in the Valley. And
oh, wow.
Yeah.
I used to live in Sherman Oaks. I get it. I know all of that area.
That whole scene. I got sober at my meetings were at a church on Moore Park Street. And right, sure. There you go, right? And anyway, and so my behavior today, 20 years into my sobriety, is what defines my sobriety. If I'm a complete jerk for an entire day, I feel like I might as well have started drinking again. So clearly you're into that notion that it's a blessing. It's about behaving right, and it's about keeping your feet under you and loving yourself and giving yourself a break, right? I mean, it's this dance. It's this daily dance.
Of course. Yeah, and then it's also practicing what we preach. Mm-hmm. And one of my favorite expressions, because it's true, is that no one is above common courtesy, right?
Beautiful.
You can't debate that, right? No, it's just a fact.
Yeah.
And so did I, just kind of, we tend to review our day, right?
Yep. Yeah.
And did I place myself above common courtesy at any point in these last 12 hours? Yes, I did.
Yeah.
Yes, I did. And I also believe in this thing called lunar brain versus solar brain, right?
Oh, that is so Charlie Sheen. Tell me, what is lunar brain versus solar brain? Tell me.
It's about how we think at night versus how we think during the daytime.
Love it.
And I'll blow people up before I'm going to bed, and I wake up and reread it, and I'm like, oh my gosh.
Yeah.
What was I thinking?
You gotta pause.
And I'm crafting an apology.
Never hit send at night, dude, right? Never hit send.
I know. That's lunar brain, man. Lunar brain is not my friend, But, however, Lunar Brain wrote most of that freaking book. So,
well, this book, I'm telling you, everybody, this book, the Book of Sheen, it's written with it's one of you said it's kind of like a co-pilot, right? Like a sidecar view into your life. You also get the sense too that you're also telling the reader, hey, look, it's okay to laugh. I'm making fun of this moment. It's okay. Believe me, there's humor in it. I lived through it, and it's okay to laugh in what I'm telling you. The read is. It's not easy in the sense that it's it's just nice and little words and all that. It's an easy read in the sense that it's engaging, it's funny, it's deadly truthful. You know that the reader knows that you are telling the truth because there's no other version of this that could exist. It's all real and organic. And again, you're a guy that people, I think, just inherently root for. And now that you're in a recovery and you're in a resurgence, and by the way, let's bring this conversation to a close. Let's bring it to a crescendo. How are you just? I mean, compare and contrast, say, to those those darker days, years ago till now, like, what are you thinking? How are you re-embracing, and what can we expect going forward from you professionally? You got some irons in the fire, I would imagine. This is going to make you, this is going to at least put a few meetings in your calendar book. Career-wise.
Yeah, no, it's hard. The worm is already starting to turn with that stuff, and I'm just the material that I'm starting to read again is the best stuff I've read in 20 years.
Oh, that's great.
People are looking at me because what the doc did was presented such a wonderful filmography, all the archival, the journey through all that, or all the early work, and people being reminded, oh, okay, he's not just the guy in the bowling shirt. He's not just the guy screaming winning.
Right.
He's not just the guy, going in or coming out of a rehab. There was there was a real body of work that people really connected with. And I'm really grateful for that and proud of some of it. Right.
Right. And you own all of it. And you own all of it. That's the beauty.
Yeah. I do, and because I have to, because I know that's part of my journey. But to look at some of those interviews, especially in the doc, it's like I don't recognize that guy, right?
Wow.
But I know exactly who he is.
Whoa.
Yep. So I don't know. I don't even know if that makes sense.
It does. I'm telling you right now, buddy, I came across a photo of myself and my wife at a friend's wedding about 6 weeks before I finally got sober. So we're at a wedding, right? So I'm as scrubbed up and looking as good as I'm possibly going to be. And I And I am bloated. I am bloodshot. I am just gross and sweaty. And and I show that to my daughters, and they're like, "Ew, Dad." And I go, "I know, ew, Dad." And I'm like, "Hey, look at me now. Look at me now."
Wow.
But again, it's those moments that you don't recognize the guy, but you do get it. It's like you
right.
And it keeps you honest too. It keeps you honest you don't want to revisit those days.
Right, because that guy, that version didn't fly in from another planet, right?
Right.
He came from inside of my planet, right?
Yep.
So I think that's the stuff I got to keep close. And just touching on the thing about the next hit is fatal, right?
Yes.
The fantasy that I have about booze, right, is the first hour. It's just the first hour.
Right.
The first hour is the greatest hour in the known universe, right?
Yep.
It's the next 300 hours.
Yeah.
That wind up, you've bought a one-way coach ticket to Amsterdam, right? And and you're not just in a different area code, you're in a different country, right?
Yep.
With people that you don't know that now have your passport.
Yep.
That now have, you know what I'm saying? It's just like it's the post first hour that where things things get tricky.
Yes. You can file that under 1 is too many and 50 is not enough.
Right.
And it's
but also in writing the book, right? Really drilling down into all this stuff, and some of it was tedious, some of it was really fun,
right.
Some of it was painful, right? But it's also it was a research project about okay, what's left? All right, what could possibly be left in that world?
Yeah.
And there's one thing left.
Right.
The ultimate final trip.
And
death.
Oh, boom.
Right?
Yep.
Not to end it on that note, but that's the only thing left. It's the only high left. That's the lowest place to go.
Indeed. And that's where, and that is, wow, that's profound, man. Look at this. I
don't know. I'm just saying.
You're right.
No,
you're right. 100%. And again, people, look, everybody listening, you've got to grab the book, The Book of Sheen, on Netflix. The doc is called AKA Charlie Sheen. If you haven't seen it yet, all your friends are talking about both items. Everybody can get the book. They can get it at Amazon. They can get everywhere with the books, right?
Yeah. As far as I know, yeah.
And for people here in the New York metropolitan area on the in the Northeast, this coming October 19th at the Schubert Theater in New Haven, Connecticut, you can go and see Charlie in conversation, talking about his life, his career, his new book, his new documentary on Netflix. October 19th at the Schubert Theater in New Haven, Connecticut. Go to the Schubert Theater's website and get tickets now. And Charlie, man, this jumped onto my possibility list. I'm so glad that we were able to work with your people and get this conversation in the book. And
this is amazing.
I'm so happy for you.
Yeah, my day has peaked.
There you go.
Now what?
Right?
Now what?
Now you're screwed, right?
What do I do? I just go back to bed? What do I do?
Just sit still. Just sit still and just bask in the glow. Just bask in the glow. That is you, my friend. Listen, really, congratulations on everything. And, we're both trudging the same road to happy destiny. And so I can relate. I can relate on that level to a lot of it. So, God bless you, buddy. Hang in there. And congratulations.
Awesome.
Thank you so much,
hey,
Charlie Sheen.
Can we make sure this is not our last conversation?
That would be great. Yeah, maybe I'll pop up in New Haven and you'll have to pretend to be happy to see me.
I wouldn't have to pretend.
So there's that TJ. Great. Okay. And yes. Well, hopefully make that happen. Maybe I get up 95 and come catch that evening.
If you could, it'd be great to meet you.
Very cool. Thank you, Charlie.
I mean, we've met, but in person.
No, of course, indeed. Yeah. Yes. All right, brother. I am so proud of you, and keep on keeping on, and trudge on, and we will definitely see each other in the near future. Be well, Charlie Sheen.
Thank you so much. Take care.
It's Another Side of Midnight. All night long, this is Another Side of Midnight
with TJ McCormack.
77 WABC. All night long, this is Another Side of Midnight
with TJ McCormack.
77 WABC. It's Another Side of Midnight.
Political humorist TJ McCormack.
Now, to the Bernard McGurk Studios,
here's TJ McCormack.
It's songs like this that make idiots like me think I can sing. Woo! Like that's actually, I mean, they landed on that as being the final take. Woo! No different. 1-800-848-9222. 1-800-848-9222. Great stuff there with Charlie Sheen. Great stuff. And you know, we do our recovery hour in the night before, in the morning before this. On Saturday mornings we do recovery 4:00. But you know, we didn't have a ton of time for that yesterday. And coming out of that conversation with Charlie Sheen, if you have seen any of that docu-series, or if you have cracked his book, or, you just heard that interview with him. Curious what your thoughts are on Charlie and on second chances and on, pretty bad behavior, amongst people, and how far down people can go. I mean, some people's, one person's bottom is another person's, just, Saturday night. I had a very high bottom. Very high bottom. I never saw the inside of a jail cell. Doesn't mean I shouldn't have been there. I never did hurt anybody. Doesn't mean that I, was in a position to have killed people along the way, drunk driving and all those other stupid things, big mouth moments with strangers in parking lots. Oh my God. 1-800-848-9222, 1-800-848-9222. And we are going to take a break. When we come back, let me know how that conversation struck you. And if there's anybody in your life that, needs to tap the brakes on booze or drugs or, anything that has their life unmanageable. Maybe it's you. Happy to talk about it. 1-800-848-9222. This is Another Side of Midnight with me, TJ McCormick.
All night long, this is Another Side of Midnight
with TJ McCormack.
All night long, this is Another Side of Midnight
with TJ McCormack.
77 WABC. It's Another Side of Midnight.
Political humorist TJ McCormick.
Now, to the Bernard McGurk studios of 77 WABC.
Here's TJ McCormack.
This is Another Side of Midnight
with TJ McCormack.
Now, to the Bernard McGurk studios.
Here's TJ McCormack.
Rumors spreading round in that Texas town. About to shack out.
All right, if you're driving, here you go. It's another license to hit the
Just let me know if you wanna go
peg it, baby.
to that home out on the range. They got a lot of nice
See what
stuff.
those RPMs can do. Go, go, go.
I'm racing. Well, yeah, it's fine if you got the time and the time to get yourself in.
If you're anywhere near the volume button and you didn't hit the volume, you're not American.
I might be mistaken.
All right. Good morning, gang. Good morning. It is 52 minutes past the hour. We're going to open up the phones. 1-800-848-9222. 1-800-848-9222. Charlie Sheen, recovery, second chances, third chances. Have you received a second chance in life, a third chance in life? How many lives have you had? It is amazing how we can just be blessed and just how in one moment We could open up the phones. In one moment, everything could just go, just go to hell. And somehow, you ever been in those moments? Somehow it doesn't. Actually, I'm curious. I never did ask this. And 1-800-848-9222. I don't think I ever asked this one. It's certainly, in the realm of just a classic talk radio. Hey, let me know. Tell me about this. But tell me about a close call that you had where if literally not but for the grace of an all-knowing and loving God or a higher power or whatever you want to call it, or luck or timing, where a nanosecond, a minute, a sip of coffee, a red light, or whatever, that you'd be dead or terribly injured or lost somebody close to you, if not but for. Again, we can call it whatever, grace of God, timing, luck. I'll take luck. When I think about being overpaid in my time on this planet, and not even including the self-inflicted, not including my drinking and driving and drinking and all the stupid stuff that comes with addiction. I'm just thinking about close calls in life. I can think of an almost drowning and I think there was an almost choking. Nobody's ever had to do the Heimlich. But I think anyway, I won't count that because I don't remember completely. But definitely one car moment that the making a left and the next person behind me making the left was plowed into and died right there in the street. And I mean, a year ago, a tree crashed behind my wife's car. It was like a stunt from a Burt Reynolds movie. It was like a stunt from Hooper. Remember the movie? That's one of the most underrated Burt Reynolds films. Hooper. A very hot Sally Field in that one. Boy, he had Sally Field in the prime of her Hollywood ingenue life. Anyway, so this tree came crashing down up in northern Westchester behind my wife's car. Genuinely the moment after she passed under it. Like she felt the branches scrape the back of her SUV. And numerous now these days with the way these lunatics, because I think of social media and all of these channels and feeds that are dedicated to and based upon and serve the desires of these guys who speed and dodge in and out of traffic, these drifters. Isn't that called drifting, right? Something like that. Well, I know that's not drifting, but it's in that genre. There's darting in and out of traffic and these chases and so many. I mean, I think I wouldn't say those were definite near death moments for me, but certainly life changing potential accidents recently. But I'm wondering if you had, because again, and my drowning thing is flipping. That was bad. My almost drowning was very bad in the ocean, in the Long Island Sound. But yeah, definitely a couple of close calls with car accidents and a few other things that I can name. And one really trippy one that I'll tell you about. Living in Los Angeles, living on, as I mentioned to Charlie, living on Moore Park Street in Sherman Oaks. Maureen knows what I'm talking about. Maureen, it was about 2 blocks from Coldwater Canyon on Moore Park Street. I was walking our dog. I was walking our Shih Tzu, Benny. Our little Shih Tzu, Benny. And literally, took Benny to the end of the street, put mail in the mailbox. Literally, I walked away. This is how quickly it happened. I put the mail in the mailbox, the little door thing that swings up, right? The little mouth that you feed it into. We walked away immediately. And as I heard the pung of the mailbox drawer door hitting the rest of it, it was that quick. A car plowed right off the opposite direction of the street, right up onto the curb, and smashed that mailbox into the house that it was in front of. I'm talking 7 seconds. All right. Give me a call, 1-800-848-9222. Have you come close to death?
It's Another Side of Midnight, 77 WABC.